this is a little informal here, okay? So right at the moment, no offense, we're going to ignore the audience for now because this is more of a administrative kind of a thing. So just bear with us. Our group, the review committee for the RFQ proposals, consists of myself, David Martin from the chamber, the chief, Andrew and/or Leslie, but it's going to be Andrew right now, Roberto, and Henry Sanford from the Finance Committee, who I do not see present. And Henry also did not pick up the proposals. So I want to say a couple things about the proposals. Our agenda reflects a public comment section, so we'll get to that in a minute. But I think we want to organize ourselves and have a chairperson. And since we haven't really done this before, we're gonna try to, take it a little slow, just so that we can be sure we're doing, not slow, but we just wanna make sure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing here. And we're gonna have to bear with that noise. The proposals themselves that came in, so they're both in. There's a bit of a question about the Mass Medispa proposal in terms of the location. Andrew, we are going to need you to give us a determination as to the zoning, whether both of these are in compliance with zoning. So what it preliminarily appears is that the Mass Medispa proposal contains 2 locations. One of them does not appear to be compliant with zoning because it is within 2,000 feet of another establishment. However, they've also identified another location which is outside of that radius. However, what I'm advised by town council is that while they indicate in the proposal that they can get site control, there's not an actual document that demonstrates that. So I don't know that we're gonna get through the entire review of that one today. So I just want to mention that. Anybody want to be the chairman of this group? Don't shout it out at once.
See, I knew that was coming. I'd want my board to sign off on that. We do have a meeting today at 4, but I don't want to take that on before I ask them.
All right.
I've already made 25 of them nervous.
I'll do it for now, and we'll might have a rolling chair.
I can follow up with you.
Okay, that'd be great. So
The reason I did is because we're all staff, and you're the only independent person.
yeah, that's a good point. So this process is not required for this type of business. However, since we have chosen to do the RFQ process, we need to follow the Mass General Law, that procurement law that relates to the RFQ process, even though it's not required to be done that way. Okay, before we get into let me just keep reviewing the agenda. I think what our group needs to do today is review we were supposed to get ranking sheets from Brian Turbot. I don't know that we actually got them yet. So just as an example, what I did was I went through Act Natural's proposal and just marked that they submitted everything that was required. And then I went through the criteria, the comparative criteria, and I did my own little internal ranking of whether or not it was highly advantageous, or not advantageous. And I don't know if we're going to get to that whole thing today, but we can discuss that. And we may need a little bit of town council ruling on the Mass Medispa proposal. Because of that uncertainty there with the location, I myself did not read this entire proposal yet. I did go through this one, and hopefully everybody else did too. It's not a quick process, and I admit that I skipped some sections that I didn't really think I needed to read thoroughly, like their application to the state and some of the like the section about the testing, I didn't really feel qualified to understand that very well. So there's gonna be sections of this that I think we need departmental expertise to tell us any thoughts that they might have, like you, Roberto, for the testing, you, Chief, for the security plan. I think I wanted Lauren Sinatra and David Gray to look at some of the sections about stormwater and energy. And I don't know that they've looked at it yet.
Are we having someone just looking at the business plan as well?
I have a couple of independent people who are informally looking at the business plan, yes. And they have indicated they're not able to get back to me till next week.
Okay.
But yes, there are some people doing that. So I think we're gonna get through what we can with the rankings, and we might have to reschedule. Well, we have another meeting scheduled for next week. Might have to continue this to next week before we schedule the interviews. We can discuss any matters related to the proposals and then discuss our next meeting. If there's anything else we think that comes up, we can deal with that. Does anybody have any thoughts or comments of our group right now
Are we gonna
before we get into the rankings?
for the rankings portion? Are we gonna want to do each ranking individually, where we each give our recommendation of highly advantageous, or should we ask questions at
Well,
the time?
Typically, what we've done is we go through the criteria. Well, we first of all make sure we all agree that the minimum criteria has been met. And then we go through the comparative criteria one by one, and everybody can sort of say, I ranked it this or that, and if you want to say why, you can. And ultimately, we're going to come up with a collective ranking. And then we will do the interviews, which may or may not change things,
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
rankings wise. Okay. Is there any public comment? And we're not really looking for public comment on the content of any of these proposals. They are all online, I believe, but we're not prepared right now to talk about the content, but we can talk about the process.
Well, I just want to make a public comment anyway.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Will this work, do you think?
That should work, yes.
Sarah Alger, I represent Sandra Lundeen. She's a member of the Holgate family, and she lives next to, her residence is next to 40 Old South Road, which is the Mass Med Spa location. And when the time's appropriate, we have a lot of comments on that particular application. We'll be making them at the planning board as well, but I just wanted to voice our concern about the process. First of all, I don't believe that application is available online yet. We weren't able to access it. I did see the application for the other applicant, but I didn't see this one. So it would be good to have an opportunity to comment after that's available. Primarily, we're concerned because of the change of location. Their letter of non-opposition doesn't apply to this particular location. It also appears that they're not in compliance with their other documents, in that I believe there's an email floating around that says that they have, Mass Med Spa has been sold to a group called Acreage, which is a multi-state sort of national corporation. I believe that the DPH rules require them to have reported that much sooner than they have, if they have at all. The zoning is obviously an issue. The location being so close, even if we didn't have the 2,000-foot rule, which we do, that's still in place, it's still awfully close to the Amelia Drive location. To lump all of these places so close to one another is going to be a disaster traffic-wise. I think we've seen in other Massachusetts towns what's happened when these facilities have opened up. And the fact that this is coming in next to a residence is really troubling to my client. So that is my comment for the moment, but I hope that the committee will look really carefully at the legality of the application and the zoning and the location. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Stephen Cohen, I represent Mass Med Spa. I don't want to get into it back and forth about the comments that Attorney Alger made. I do want to just correct one very important fact for the record, which is that Mass Medi Spa is a nonprofit that is the applicant here. It was not sold to acreage, and it is not, and anything with the state DPH is properly filed. So we can deal with all the details of that later, but I thought it was a very important point to correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Deb Holtgate. We live on Somerset Road, but my husband and I own property directly across from the proposed location. And that was property that was gifted to my husband that we are going to pass on to our children to be able to build a home and live on Nantucket. And to think of their residents being across the street from this, the traffic, the people, and the potential.
Are you talking about the Mass Medi Spa location?
Yes, sorry. The address is 3 Forest that we own. And so we just want to reiterate that this is primarily a residential area, and we don't feel that it's appropriate in that location.
I think, Patty?
I just wanted to clarify, we do have the option in the application for the second site, so we should talk after this as to what that is, but I just verified it with the, folks in the, who were helping me put the application together, and it is there, so.
Okay, we can discuss that later.
Okay.
According to town council, the confirmatory document is not there right at the moment.
Okay, well, we'll talk about it.
Okay, I don't know that we're gonna, David?
The comment I would like to make, my name is David Martin from Daffodil Lane. I'd like to really still encourage you to keep the process moving, move it as fast as you can, responsibly, because it's been too long. This should have happened years ago. Hopefully you can move this process along in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you, and we appreciate your comments, and you've made those a number of times, and we're doing our best to move it along, but I think people are gonna really have to understand there are a lot of concurrent town activities going on at the same time. Preparation for town meeting, budget, we spend a lot of time on the 40B, this, so just please also be patient, and we appreciate your patience as well. Any other public comment? Okay, I don't know, back to the committee. I don't know that we're gonna do a lot of talking about the pros and cons of locations. I think our role more is to discuss the pros and cons of the application as it relates to the criteria that is in here. And if there's a particular location issue, we can discuss it. But there are other regulatory opportunities for abutters and others to bring forth those kinds of concerns at the planning board process, right, Andrew? But we also understand and hear what you're saying.
Can I just ask, because I think at the select board meeting, location did seem to be important to the other board members. Is that something that you think will really be answered during the planning board meetings as opposed to in this application?
Well, I think there's two opportunities for location to be considered. One is certainly through the planning board and through the special permit process. Special permits, I think, as you know, take a supermajority 4 of the 5 members to vote for. The other process, I think, is the selectmen's process. So when you consider a letter of non-opposition to a particular site, that certainly you would take into account location. So I don't know how much this, I mean, as Libby said, I think this committee is somewhat limited to the criteria that's put in this RFP.
Yeah.
But those 2 opportunities are clearly available
Okay.
to consider that.
Okay, we're gonna take one more public comment.
I
and then
actually just have a question about the RFQ process. My
Okay.
name is PJ Rubin. I'm an attorney for the landowner out on Tomahawk Road. I just want to make sure I understand exactly what the parameters are. So once the RFQ was submitted, is the committee then allowing subsequent documents to be added to that? Or was there a deadline on the 28th where these things had to be, turned in and completed? with all the relevant documentation and
There's
everything.
a
That was my
deadline.
understanding of the process.
Correct. So that is something that the committee will take into consideration, whether or not the documents submitted are sufficient.
Okay,
and meet
that's
the
all. I was
criteria.
just, okay, great, thank you.
Andrew, with regard to the location of Mass Medi Spa and the one that's sort of in question right now, is that or is that not in compliance with current zoning?
So the town meeting voted a separation between retail marijuana establishments, adult use marijuana establishments. That bylaw has been submitted to the Attorney General for review. We have not had a final ruling on that either way. And I believe Town Council has issued an opinion that the site is within the limit, and the language of the article would bring the site at Old South Road and Forest out of compliance with zoning. So I believe the site map that was included was a site across from Noshup, but then there was another discussion about the site at the basically out at the Coffin Pit area. So obviously that site, those other two sites, and again, I guess we need clarification on. My understanding is that the site across from Noshup, basically in the Richmond development across on Old South Road, is not under further consideration. I think that the site referenced is in the same vicinity as the Act Natural site. So it's in that industrial area, which I'm referring to as the Coffin Pit, former Coffin Pit.
I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the application online on my phone, and the confirmatory document is on page 44 of the 917-page filing. It's an affirmation of an option to purchase. I believe that's a sufficient document.
Okay, we're waiting for a town council confirmation on that. Thank you for, yep. What page did you say that was?
44.
44. Thank you.
Okay. I think we should,
Madam Chair.
yeah, I'm texting with Greg about what is or is not online. And so just so people know, there's 300 pages of the Mass Medi Spa proposal posted, but we were waiting for a redacted version, apparently. So, but there's, some of it is on there. Yes.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to confirm then that there's a map included in the packet which shows Assessor's Map 68157. So this is not, I just want to confirm then that that's not a site being considered.
Is that real?
It's in my section under
Yeah,
tab 2,
What's the address of that property? Is that the Richmond property?
59 Old South
Yeah,
Road.
that's not being considered. That should be reminded.
Okay, so that's gonna be an issue for us to determine in our rankings, that. Okay, so I don't know how anybody else did this, but what I did was I tried to just get through this and with the RFQ next to me, check off everything that was required, and then get through the comparative criteria. So why don't we do that? Is that okay?
So essentially work through the RFQ.
Yeah, I think so. So I'm just gonna go through, starting on page 1. In order to receive consideration, responses must be submitted in accordance with the following instructions. 1, all response submittals shall be sealed and delivered to town manager. They met that. 2, hard copies of the proposal must be submitted and numbered, 1 through 8. Done. And now we're going through Act Natural now. Okay? In one binder, no stapling, table of contents listing each item of the criteria in numerical order. That's done. I'm just saying my thing. So you guys, if you guys have a different ranking or a different idea of what was submitted, just jump out with it, okay? Clearly marked on the front, co-located adult use marijuana, blah, 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 done. Available in electronic format upon request. They've both done it or are in the process of doing that. The submittals were due Friday. Sorry, I was also told by text to speak into the microphone for you guys too. The proposals were due Friday, December 28th at 2 p.m. with a certified bank check of $500. That was done. And there's just some non-submittal things left after that. So the proposal requirements, which is section 2 of the RFQ, start with number 1 on page 4. Name, DBA, or business name. Documentation of mass business registration and required certificates of good standing. I believe they submitted that.
Yes.
In fact, I'm not going to read all these. I'm just going to go through the number. Number 2, I believe they submitted. Number 3 submitted. Number 4 submitted. Number 5, number 6 submitted. 7, 8, 9 submitted. 10 submitted, but I did make a tiny comment to myself that it's a little hard to follow. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, all submitted. 18, 19 submitted. So there's 19 required items to be submitted, and they have submitted them all. Everybody agree? Yeah. Okay. So, the evaluation process is next with the comparative evaluation criteria. Now, before we get into that, do you guys feel ready to go through this? Has everybody felt like they've had a sufficient chance to read this proposal?
No, I
Okay.
do not.
The time was way short. Right?
Yeah, it was very compressed. And so, like I said, I managed to get through most of it, but there were large sections that I didn't read and I'm not going to because I don't think that I necessarily need to, like the application to the state and some of the more technical things. So but we got to give this, attention. So I don't know that we want to go through it without having read it. And I haven't read Mass Mighty Spy yet, so I need to get through that myself. So I have a thought, which would be to continue our meeting to, we already have a meeting tentatively scheduled right now for next Tuesday, the 15th, from 1 to 3. We were initially, if we were able to get through these proposals, going to do interviews that day. But we don't even have one of our members here, and he hasn't picked up the proposals yet.
And I
So
won't be there either.
if we need some more time to actually read these properly, should we continue this meeting to next Tuesday at 1 o'clock?
I will be absent next week anyway, because of that. So would I be able to give my comments in writing?
Yes, I think what you can do is fill out the ranking sheet. We'll get
In
it from
writing?
Brian.
Okay,
And you can
perfect.
leave it with one of us.
Excellent. We'll get
And
that
if you have
done.
any written stuff to
Mhm,
tell us,
I'll get that to
we
you.
can do that. Okay.
Perfect.
Does anybody else have an issue with that date and time?
I'm going to be gone in the morning, but I hopefully will be back by then.
Okay.
If I can catch the 11:15 or whatever time that boat is,
Do we want to say 1:30 to be sure?
that'd be better.
Does that work for everybody?
1:30 on Tuesday.
Yeah, the
Okay,
15th. Does that work for you?
yes.
And how close are the ranking sheets to being ready for us?
We were supposed to have them yesterday, but like I said, there's a lot of other things going on. We had to do a lot of other different things yesterday. But the ranking, you can do your own ranking sheet, really. You can just go through it like, so I just wrote down, what I thought next to each thing. So you can do it yourself, but we will have to fill out the actual official ranking sheet at some point. But you can do your own ranking now. We'll have it for next week though, to do a collective one.
So the interviews will happen or they won't? We're going to push that back?
Well, I think we're going to have to push it back.
Okay.
Push the interviews back.
the
So
week
why don't we
after.
talk about a tentative date for the interviews? I'm looking at I don't want to put it out too much. Later that week is problematic for me anyway, because I'm going to a conference on Thursday afternoon, and I've got we got executive session on Thursday morning. I don't know if we'd be ready to do the interviews on Wednesday. It's a lot of time. I hope the select board doesn't expect an agenda to be ready for anytime soon.
Wednesday, the 16th?
Yeah, is that too much?
I could do it.
Do you want to try to do that maybe 10 to 12?
That works for me.
That
I think
work for
if
you?
we can get through everything that we need to get through on the Tuesday.
Yeah, if we can get through everything we need to get through on Tuesday, we hopefully will be able to do the interviews on Wednesday. So the proposal people are present, so we're letting you know that is a tentative for the interviews, Wednesday, 10 to 12, and we don't know yet the order.
And how long do you think before we have a determination that the mass medi?
I should have that today or tomorrow.
Okay.
I think I just haven't had a chance to actually talk physically with town council. There's been a lot of email back and forth, but I haven't even read it yet.
So is this considered, mass medi, is this considered complete at this point or no?
The most recent information that I had from town council was no. However, that was a few days ago. So last I knew, there was some legal review going on about this confirmatory document. Steve is saying it's in there. Last I knew, town council was saying it wasn't sufficient. But as I said, that was a few days ago, and the town council review of this 900-page document had not been completed yet. So it may be that it is complete, but I guess I'm kind of waiting for that confirmation.
So what is here could change before we meet next week?
I don't think it can change very much the only thing I think that would change is that this second location on Tomahawk Drive is able to be considered by the group.
Okay.
And do we need any discussion about sort of the point that was brought up earlier, that this is more of a clarification of information that was supplied in the application as opposed to an incomplete application?
Correct.
Okay.
And as confirmation, I'll also be out on the 16th, about all next week.
Right. So you should give us any questions that you might have.
Will
and
do.
Make sure you tell us.
I'll try to get
any-
that to you in writing by Friday.
That'd be great. And focus specifically on like the health related
That's
stuff.
what I focused on. I haven't been able to read the whole applications, so I focused on the health parts.
And in addition to Roberto's comments and then Chief's comments on security, is there anyone else that we're waiting on that we would be looking for more specialized? We've got the business plan, comments on the more specialized aspects of it. Business plan,
Lauren and David Gray.
Lauren and David Gray. Okay.
this.
Hi, Henry. Just so you can go right there. Have you picked up the proposals?
I have none here.
Okay. Okay. Have you read them both?
Not all of them.
Okay. So, just FYI, what we're talking about now is not everybody here has had a chance to read both of them fully. And there's a little bit of a question about Mass Media Spa, but I think we do need to, we should all be going through that one. But committee members feel like they need a little bit more time. So what we were talking, and what we've just done so far is confirmed that all of the minimum criteria has been met for Act Natural. We haven't gone through it yet for Mass Media Spa. So what we're talking about doing is continuing our meeting to next, what do we say? Next Tuesday at 1:30 to finish up the criteria, the comparative criteria for Act Natural and both of the criterias for Mass Media Spa. And then we tentatively would schedule interviews with both groups the following day between 10 and 12. Will that work for you? Okay. Anything else that we can think of? Or that we didn't take up that we should have? Do you have any thoughts, Henry? Not about the content of anything, but just the process or anything like that? Okay. Okay.
In regards to the interview process, we'll sort of allocate, we'll let them know whether they're first or second, assuming they take about an hour each.
Yeah,
And
I think
then-
we can pin that down next Tuesday.
Okay.
And I think we're generally supposed to ask the same questions of each group, although, you know, sometimes as questions go, depending on the answer to something, you might need to follow it up with other questions that might not have been part of your sort of, you know, standard question list, but I think that's generally okay as long as we make sure that we try to ask the same type of question to each group.
And some questions will be generated from the ranking process as well.
Yeah,
Correct.
as a matter of fact, now that I'm thinking more about that, maybe what we should also try to do on Tuesday is come up with our questions.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what did you say? Can you repeat that?
On Tuesday, when we've finished our rankings, we should probably also try to come up with our standard questions for each group.
Submit to you.
Yeah, well, that we'll ask them during the interview. And I'll try to get some guidance from town council on that as
Can you
well.
not submit them prior?
We haven't really been submitting them prior. I guess I'll have to find out if we can do that or not.
Libby? Oh, I have a question on that.
Yeah.
I mean, if we have specific questions that come out of the proposal, I mean, it
Yeah.
might not be,
It might be specific to one group and not the other.
right.
I
So,
think that's okay
okay,
to do.
great.
As long as we're, you know, clear about it.
And comments from sort of the more specialized, people with the specialized knowledge, do you think we'll have those by next Monday?
Yeah, I'm hoping to have those by the end of this week.
Okay.
Anything else that we can think of? Okay. All right. Thank you. So we'll adjourn now and meet again next Tuesday at 1:30. I do not know the location yet. I'm going to have to see if I can get this room again.
Okay, thank you.
Good, how are you?